Hey everybody, welcome to Sandy Treasures. Today I'm so excited because yesterday I just completed another scene for my children's book. And this is all about environmental awareness. And I'm so glad it hit me, to do a little children's book on the subject because I think it's a good idea to prepare our kids for what's coming up in their near future. What is it that they have to deal with? Which it's unfortunate because here we have about six decades that we've been building this plastic pollution legacy. And that's what inspired me to do this children's book. So this is the third scene I've completed. I have two more scenes I want for my book. And then I think I already have planned out another book. Hopefully this will be a smooth transition. It won't be so difficult. Boy, when it comes to technology, I'm not the most smooth operator, but I've been learning a lot and I'm glad for that because I don't like to let myself get cornered when it comes to technology. I tell this to my husband all the time, you got to keep learning, about what's going on out there with technology and everything because this is the world we live in right now. So I've learned how to edit my own videos, thank God. I tried my hand at making my own website and I'm a little stuck there, but I think I got some help coming up. Anyway, let's talk about this scene. So in the children's book, there's a part of it where this little mermaid, which I call her Cora, and I actually call her the trashy mermaid, not because she's trashy, but because she's surrounded by trash. And that's something you'll see in other scenes, not in this particular one. So she actually spots a little bit of movement and a little flickering of light. And it turns out to be this little seahorse that is tangled in a bunch of nylon. So she takes the seahorse and she detangles all that nylon and she tries to nurse this little seahorse that is absolutely exhausted from moving and trying to detangle himself. So she remembers a song that her grandmother used to sing to her, and it's with a hum that turns into a melody that she starts to do this with the seahorse to help the seahorse soothe himself, calm down, and energize again for life, right? So after she rescues this little seahorse, she hums this little song that she remembers that turns into a nice little melody. And the seahorse is revitalizing himself and he's nestling in her fingers. And that's why I painted the seahorse wrapping his tail around her finger. And then as she's singing this song, all of a sudden the seahorse darts away and she starts to chase the seahorse. And that is the part of this particular painting. This is the scene that I am describing in the children's book. And another aspect of this scene is that she herself, Cora, is running out of energy and she is dying too because she is the last living mermaid in the dying sea. And I'm going to stop giving details about the actual children's book because one day when I have all the scenes, I will tell the story online and I will give you guys also the link of where it's going to be available. I believe that I'm going to work with Amazon. I like how they're marketing and how easy they make it. And I believe it's a print on demand. So I like all of those aspects about publishing my book with Amazon. So hopefully you guys will own one of these books too. And well, if you like it, of course, right? You have to like it first. So hopefully it will be appealing to you. And now let's talk a little bit about the process of how I'm doing this whole thing. I'm using a wood panel and I like the wood to be coming through. So I don't prime my wood panel at all because I wanted to show the grains and oil paints. I do have to put quite a bit of oil on my panel to move the oils around. And I really like the color of the panel itself to come through. So this style of painting is not turning out to be as bright as when I do my paintings on a canvas, which usually I prep with gesso. And sometimes I add like a color, it could be a yellow or whatever mood I want it to be, like a red if I want it to be vibrant or whatever I'm looking for. It depends on what the painting is, right? So this one has its own characteristics, which is the grain, how it's showing, how it gives that texture onto my painting. And these are not so bright, so I like them for that too. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like back in the day when I used to tattoo, how I used to want them to be a little bit brighter, because the tattoos would always have a little bit of translucency, which it will hold the color of the skin, right? I would always explain that to people that it doesn't matter. Like, that's the reason why tattoo artists will go ahead and punch up the color when it comes to their digital advertising, like on social media. You got to like bump up the color a little bit more contrast because that makes it more attractive. When in reality, most tattoos are a little bit on the dull side because the color of your skin is having an effect on the art itself. So in this case, the color of the board, the wood board, is actually having, and it's coming through a little bit on my painting. And I like it. I like how, it's not quite as dull as a tattoo, but it does it does have a lot less brightness, and I'm enjoying it. And my color palette is not very extensive when it comes to this painting. I'm using a lot of white, of course, and a little bit of teal blue and a royal blue, black and brown for her eyes. And when I use black, I don't use it like 100% pure black. A lot of times I mix it with whatever the color, in this case teal is the background color. And I like how her skin has that bluish tone of the water as well as her hair. So I'm enjoying the whole process. Oh my God, I can't get enough of this. And I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And by the way, in case you don't know this, I do take commission jobs. So if you like to see yourself as a mermaid, let's say surrounded by your favorite critters, like these examples, I would love to be a part of that. I'm always excited to do a new project. You can contact me by email at sandytreasures.inc@gmail.com, and I am very responsive. So the process when it comes to doing a version of you as a mermaid is I like to do the doll version of you. So like you see in these examples. So I tend to exaggerate the eyes and make things cuter, like a doll. And that's my process. But we'll get more into it if you guys contact me and you want something like this done. So I want to talk a little bit more about what I just did to this mermaid here. And you see how I'm painting the 6-pack holder, and I just got done also with her necklace. Her necklace are pieces of straws that she cut up into little sections, and she made her own necklace, and then she did embellish it with a little pendant of a plastic spoon. And now I'm also painting a bottle cap that belongs to, I believe it belongs to a honey jar or something. So it doesn't matter. It's one of these like squeeze bottles with a little cap. And she made her own little earring. That's part of the story. She makes her own jewelry. She's a creative mermaid, which is really the way I envisioned myself if I was a mermaid, the last living mermaid in the Dead Sea. I would probably be artsy and crafty, even in my dying moments. That seems to be the thing with me. So this is my little story, and I put a lot of myself into this character who is the last mermaid in the dying sea. And as you see here, when I'm painting the hair, I don't want to go all white. Like, that's the mistake that a lot of people do, and I actually am guilty of that too, making everything the same color. So you have to be patient enough and think about what are the deeper colors going to be, and then later when you do your highlights, it will show really well. So here I'm working on my little seahorse, which at the beginning, I call it the shitty stage. Everything at the beginning has a little shitty stage. That's kind of like a little saying that I got from back in my tattoo days. People would ask me, oh, how's it looking at the very beginning? And I would tell them it looks like shit. So give me a moment. And this is what's going on with this little seahorse. Right now, it's not looking all that good, but what I'm doing is establishing the grid that the seahorse seems to have, and removing some of the paint that is in the grid, so that way I can apply the highlights on the grid that is on the body of the seahorse. I hope that was easy to understand. And then I apply all my highlights, and voila, this little seahorse starts to come to life. And I love how I did the little tail wrapping itself around the thumb. And now I'm doing the highlights, which is kind of like the jazzing up aspect of every painting. Is like where everything comes to life now. So I do highlights on the hair and on the bottle cap and on the necklace and everything starts to just come to life a whole lot better. And it's really exciting. This is a point where my painting pops and it's starting to look really good. And I love what I'm doing with the hair, because I thought the hair looked really good, but then I started adding these little curly cues at the end of the hair strands. And I think that just added more whimsicalness to this whole painting that is going to go on a children's book. And when I'm adding these little curly cues to the hair, I have to make sure that my liner brush is really lubed up. So at this point, I'm not using oils anymore. I'm actually using mineral spirits to get those curly cues to move that way. And then I do the final touch, which is when she's actually singing to the seahorse, and the way it looks like in my mind, which, if you look at anybody that is blowing bubbles under the water, it kind of looks a little different. But I wanted to make it into small bubbles, a string of small bubbles. I thought that would be a lot cuter for my book, instead of like the big blobs of water bubbles that you see when people are putting some air out. And another final touch to this is some of the background has to have some majestic bubbles, which I love how they just add that whimsicalness into this whole scene. So I love doing my bubbles. And of course, I got to do those little highlights, and I love lining the edges of my bubbles. And it's really easy to do that with a liner brush. And that's pretty much it for this video. All I have left to do is sign. And nowadays, I decided recently to sign Sandy Treasures instead of my name. This is going to be the way I sign my paintings from now on. Sandy Treasures is the brand I want to stick with for the rest of my life. And here are some close-ups of the project. Nice and finished. What do you guys think? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And leave any comments. I will respond. Thank you for watching. See ya next time. Bye.